Well, good morning and good afternoon for some of you that are on the eastern side of the country. My name is Joel Spies, and I'll be conducting the webinar for Rainbow today. We're going to be going over some marketing tips and techniques, as well as neuromarketing, which is more of a scientific process that here at Rainbow we have a lot of interest in, and hopefully will bring value to you. We have, for housekeeping-wise, we have questions on the right of your screen that you can type in. We'll be answering those at the end of the webinar, but please, ask a lot of questions. This is for your benefit. I could speak all day about this, but I really want you to get something out of it of use. So definitely ask questions. Get your CEUs typed in there so we make sure you get or your ISA number so we can get your CEUs created and registered. So with that, I'm going to dive in, give you a little background on Rainbow and myself. Okay. As I said, my name is Joel Spies. I've been with Rainbow for 18 years. My responsibility has always been around marketing. I started off with the product side of our company, and in the last, I'd say, probably 7-8 years, I've been responsible for our service side. My background is I'm not an arborist. I didn't come from a tree background. My foundation was a graphic designer, worked up through with different ad agencies, and became a creative director, and then into the marketing realm of working with ad agencies. Like I said, 18 years ago, I joined Rainbow and managed marketing. A little background on Rainbow companies. We are an employee-owned company. You're probably familiar with Rainbow Tree Care Scientific, which is our products division. But what I'll be talking about today is the marketing techniques that we use on our service side of the business, which is the foundation is Rainbow Tree Care. We do have a small lawn care division and pest control, and we also do holiday lights in the winter. So these are methods and knowledge and experiences that we've pulled from working with these businesses. If you're not aware of, I'm going to do a quick little pitch before we get into the marketing conversation. Last year we did Saluting Branches, which was our first year of doing that, and that was a nationwide service project. Focused on veteran cemeteries around the country, and there was 1,100 volunteers from different tree care companies that joined last year for the 27 cemeteries, and it was just an awesome event. If you're on the webinar today and you were on it, thank you for joining, and we look forward to you participating this year. We did roughly $2 million worth of work, and the VA, the Veterans Affairs, was very appreciated, and they said it was the best volunteer event that they've ever had. So hands off to the arborists around the country and the tree care industry. If you need more information about that, you can definitely go to our website at salutingbranches.org, or if you go to the Rainbow site, you can link through to it as well. This is some of the photos from last year's event. Had a lot of turnout. This one down the bottom corner is the New England ISA. They had over 140 attendees. It was an amazing turnout. Some of the had small turnout, some had large, but they all contributed. It was a great event. And as I said, this year's event is coming up September 21st. So you can go on that website and look for cemeteries that are close to you if you're looking to participate. Rainbow started, this is actually our 40-year anniversary, and that's Tom Prosser, the founder of Rainbow Companies. And what's unique about Rainbow is we started out really in the plant healthcare market and treating for Dutch elm disease, and was focused on plant healthcare for about the first 10 to 15 years of the company's history before we got into more traditional removals, pruning, and tree work. So we come from a plant healthcare background, which has always been our focus, and which is unique about that is that's really how we see taking care of trees first. and I'll talk a little bit how we market that and how that's grown our business. The makeup of of Rainbow is, like I just said, we're 40 years old this year. We have about 140 full-time employees, a lot of certified arborists. We have 10 master arborists on staff. And since we started with Plant Healthcare, half of our revenue annually is from tree healthcare. And as you know, if you're doing tree healthcare, it's definitely a much more profitable part of the business. We have a lot of crews. A lot of those 140 people are pruning and removal crews, but again, half of our business is generated from tree healthcare. So I'll talk about how we sustain that and how we got to that point. To give you a little context for where our sales come from, it's still heavily sales-driven actions. So when you look at our makeup, 60% of it is being generated by sales. And when I mean generated by them, they're creating the lead or creating the opportunity and then closing the business. It's not, a lot of marketing support that generates that. One of the key functions we do is spring letters, and it's our proposal. And we look at the property, we have the records for the property, and we send out a full proposal every year to every customer and even past customers. And that is a significant part of our business. We also do pest alert emails, and I'll talk a little bit how we do those. That's another strong source for revenue for us. And then just simply, once we're on the property from pruning removal, it's selling the PHC work that generates that. Everyone's going to have a different mix, and I'd like to show this and get some people's perspective. When you look at, a lot of what we get questions about, or I get questions about, is like Yellow Pages, Angie's List. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but in general, we don't get much response from there. We've pulled back our dollars we spend there, and we really focus up here with our own referrals, our customer referrals, and then primary client generators and web is really the key source, these two right here, for us generating new customers. So what I want to, hopefully you take away today out of this webinar is you understand about the brand. What does a brand mean? How to identify and go after your ideal customers. What does that mean to you? Education. How do you, market? Ours is key with education and why that's so important. Timing of your marketing communications. And then, are your communications impactful? And that's probably the biggest meat of today's conversation, and that'll tie in more about the neuromarketing, what we know and how the brain works, and how you can leverage this understanding to be more, to get better results. So brand, really brand is the promise, the big idea that you make out to your customers. But the key thing with the brand, I think, is to know that it's what your customers think. It's not what you think. So, a lot of, you might think, well, we're the best, or we're the leaders in the market. Well, it doesn't really matter what you think. It's what would your customers say when you weren't there? What comes to mind for them when they see your trucks or get a communication piece from you? So it's very important to, try to get some feedback from your customers. Listen to customer service. We have reply cards that go out with they get left with our door hangers for all of our work. And, those door hangers, it's a tear-off card that they can reply to with self-mailing back. And those are worth gold to us. Because, usually you either get exceptional when work is really exceptional or when it didn't work. And you don't get the middle ground, but those two extremes can give you a good taste for how you show up to your customer. With Rainbow, our foundation for our brand and what we make sure is communicated with all of our pieces, as well as what we preach to our own employees, is that we're science-based and that we're committed to exceptional customer service. And that's really the foundation of our brand. But I would encourage you, if you haven't written that down, to write down someplace and keep it in front of you and your employees. What's the foundation of your brand? Because if you don't set the brand in your company, guess what? your employees are setting the brand. So your newest hire, if you haven't had that conversation with him or her or worked through it, will bring whatever they think your brand is, and that's what they communicate to your customers. And we did this several years back where we polled different people on our customers, and every employee had a different feel for what the brand was. Yeah, they were all vanilla, but somebody was vanilla with chocolate syrup. Someone was vanilla with nuts. It was not all consistent. So having a brand positioning statement in your company, and make sure that's trained on and reinforced with customer service, with your crews out in the field. Anybody that comes in contact with customers, a lot of companies will step over accounting. Well, guess what? Accounting deals a lot with your customers, especially when people aren't getting paid and you need a call. So make sure that you're having a conversation with everyone. How do you protect your brand? That's a key thing. You put a lot of work and money into it, and it can easily get eroded, or things can happen. Well, what we do at Rainbow is, we make sure, since we're science-backed, and that's our claim, we make sure the only protocols that we do, when it comes to, pruning a tree or doing a planned healthcare protocol or even stump removal, we have science-backed protocols. We make sure we're doing it safely, and that, we can really stand behind what we do. One of the key things that usually is a breakdown with the customer, from my experience, is expectations. So you use science-backed protocols. Well, guess what? We're dealing with Mother Nature. Nothing's 100%. Well, if you don't have that conversation with customers, and in your marketing materials and your sales materials, it doesn't state expectations, guess what? Everyone would expect 100% results. And we know that, we can't deliver 100%. So setting proper expectations for myself and I would highly encourage you to look at this, is that's what's going to really protect your brand. And some key things you can do by that is, like I said, make sure you have it in writing and on your proposals, as well as in your marketing literature. So your brand is also, it's your promise. And what's a promise? What's a brand? At the end of the day, brand is trust. Why do you buy X product over, you're at the grocery store, so you buy Coke over the store brand? There's something in there that you trust from experience that is better. So really what you're looking at is building trust with your customers. A couple of things that Rainbow does to build trust is, one, we do have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That guarantee doesn't mean we always, the customer's always right. Sometimes they're not. But what our commitment to is that, if the customer is satisfied, it doesn't mean they're right, and you don't want to get in a conversation about right and wrong. You're really about trying to satisfy that customer. We fire customers. There's customers that don't fit our brand, don't fit our expectations, and they're not a good fit. It's not a good fit for them. They're never going to be satisfied with us, and we're never going to be happy with them. So we fire them. But even when we fire a customer, our commitment is that customer leaves satisfied, feeling like they had a fair shake. So we don't have it guaranteed specifically, in writing that means this. It's just our commitment that every customer feels like they were taken care of. A couple of things that we do on key protocols. So for this example, where it's Dutch elm disease and emerald ash borer, we do have a guarantee. And so with the Dutch elm disease and emerald ash borer guarantee, if your tree stays protected and it does die from that disease or insect, EAB kills it, we refund the money for the last treatment. And I get a lot of questions of, why would you guarantee nothing's 100%? And you're just going to be giving back money? Well, there's a couple reasons, and Tom Prosser taught me this way back when I first started here, and I thought it was an interesting way to look at it. And he said, and this is around the Dutch elm disease protocol, and he said, well, it does two things. One, it creates trust with the customer that we're going to back the expectations we set, and we know we're going to lose some trees and we're going to give back money, but that's our commitment to create credibility for us as well as the protocol. But more so, it also forces our salespeople, our consulting arborists, to make sure they're making the right recommendations. With Dutch elm disease or ash borer, you don't want to, a customer may want you to take care of a tree that you think that should be taken care of. So if you're not, you can get easily trapped into treating it anyway. And so the guarantee really holds our own people accountable that they're doing the proper recommendations. So I thought that was a unique perspective. So it really holds two sides of the street. Keeps your people, keeps you in check, as well as it creates trust with the customer. So how do you attract your ideal customer? Well, it really gets out to what's the message that you're sending out into the marketplace. And I put up this 1-800 cut tree, and there's nothing wrong with putting out 1-800 cut tree, especially if that's what you do. But the point is, if that's not all you do, how would someone know that you do anything different? I would guarantee you, 1-800 cut tree, you look down the bottom right, it's a little hard to see on your screen, but it says tree removal, stump removal. That's probably what they do. And if that's their market, this is a great billboard for that approach. However, if you're not happy with the customer base and what you do, you got to remember that what you created them. Your customer base is a reflection of you. So if you're looking at, maybe you have a persistent complaint about your customers that they're always challenging you on price. Well, I would encourage you to look at the conversations that you're having with customers, as well as what are the marketing pieces that you're putting out, and looking for, does that reflect or would that create that customer? A lot of times with new consulting arborists, when we do ride-alongs, they don't feel comfortable with the pricing maybe, and so when they give a proposal over to a customer, they'll say, "Wow, this is expensive, but we're the good company, we can do a great job for you." Well, they just created the context with the customer that that's expensive. You don't know what's expensive to that customer. That may be, maybe they were thinking twice as much. Maybe that was a reasonable price, but you created the context. So I always encourage, whatever your persistent complaint is with the customer, you've got to look at yourself. I encourage you to do that. And really look at, what do you want your customer to say about you? What customers do you want to do? Are you a premium tree care company? Are you affordable? Are you tree health? Whatever you choose, there's no right or wrong answer. Is your message consistent with where you're at? And this is interesting. A lot of times I get the question, well, if you guys do so much plant health care, what do you market? Are you doing a lot of tree health care marketing, or are you doing a lot of pruning and removal? How do you keep all your pruning work up? Well, interesting enough, even though we're 50-50 split on tree health care and traditional tree work, our marketing is probably about an 80-20 split. So we're doing about 80% tree health care marketing and 20% pruning. However, the majority of our first-time customers are from pruning and removal. So if you're marketing tree health care, people already know that tree care companies do pruning and removal, so you're still going to get those phone calls for that type of work. But you also will be getting calls for other type of work. So my biggest question is, the customer's not going to know what you do if you don't tell them, or what to expect. And usually with plant health care, I like this photo series down below. This was actually a photo from the Morton Arboretum. If you're familiar with Camostat, you've probably seen this. We've used it a lot in our marketing. And this tree here on the far left would be a removal. I wouldn't recommend that as something you'd be trying to sell tree healthcare to, but this is a neat series of what plant healthcare can do, and your customers are going to have no concept of this. So if you're not telling them, they're not going to know to ask, and that's really the point of this. So education. This is really the foundation of our marketing. We believe in, if we can create a educated customer, our products will sell themselves because they'll understand why, and also then they become a champion for Rainbow. We get a lot of customer referrals because, they start becoming our pest alert people. I mean, they'll call us and say, I've got this problem. I know this is Japanese beetle, and I told my neighbor too. And so education is really the foundation of what we do. And that really influences how the market sees Rainbow, and they recognize the problem. And we focus on trust with our customers. And so our brand, we do a lot of brand building, but really it's trust building. And trust to me is basically do what you say you're going to do. And do it on time and do it well and stand behind it. Like I said, satisfied customer. Not everyone's always going to be satisfied, but people respect. And in today's market, I believe people that will stand behind it, because everyone's got warranty claims and got this, and they can say, oh wow, you were 2 days out of warranty, sorry, we can't take care of you. Well, if you're always committed to taking care of your customers, you will have a strong brand. And that's really where we focus on, is with the integrity. What I mean by integrity is do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it, say you have an appointment for Tuesday at 2 o'clock and you're not going to be able to make it, call them ahead of time, let them know, or scheduling. A lot of times with us up here in the North Country, we get road restrictions in the spring and we have different things that change scheduling. Customers are pretty good, if you communicate ahead of time instead of, overcommitting and under-delivering. So, that's another thing. We do that a lot. We try to undercommit and over-deliver. That obviously goes well with building trust and customer loyalty. So our foundational piece, if I remember back with all the mix of different marketing materials, I talked to, primary client generators was making up about 10% of revenue, but it makes up a significant amount of our leads. And what we look at with primary client generators is these are anybody that, as a homeowner or a property owner, you would go to for advice around trees. A lot of people, they get hesitant about calling a company. I mean, think about, if you've got a problem with your, with your roof. If you call a roofing company, you're definitely going to get, a sales job. And so a lot of people will hesitate. I mean, I know one of the first things I do is I go on the internet. We found that way back in the day that garden centers were a great source for lead generation. Homeowners bring in leaves, they bring in samples, they'll bring in photos to their local garden center, and they think they can go in there and get the solution and walk home and take care of it. Well, a lot of it cannot be done through the garden center. So we started working with garden centers, educating them, training them, as well as we have a strong relationship, and our consulting arborists stop in weekly with garden centers. Some of them have dedicated time where they're there for an hour every week to answer questions, but we train their horticulturalists, and they really see Rainbow as the go-to people for that. Takes time, but it pays off. That effort definitely pays off. As well, city foresters, extension agents, any place you can think of that your customers are looking for advice. Get in front of those influencers, educate them about your business. And if you're coming from an educational background and a problem-solving background, we have found that most people are very responsive. They may be a little tough at first because you don't have that trust isn't there, but once you get that trust, then they will be a great referral source for you. I mean, think about your own how you refer. I never would refer someone on a paid referral. We don't do paid referrals. I personally, you gave me $20, I'm not going to tell my friend to use you for service if I don't trust you. I think it's trust and creating good customers and that loyalty with them is your best bet for referrals. Another area, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it today, but the key thing that's becoming rapidly the lead source of choice is anything online through Facebook, the social media outlets, your website, search engines. I'm not getting in that today. We'll have another webinar later this month, or actually in July, on how to use the web and online marketing, which if you're interested, I highly recommend you do. Julie, one of the marketing people here that manages it, she's really good at it. She's passionate about it, and she can answer any of your questions and provide a lot of insight. So make sure you schedule that into your calendars. How we educate, and this is where we've really created a lot of trust with the market is we host symposiums. I know that's kind of daunting for everyone to do, but if that is something that you want to take on, definitely it is. It pays off. It is a little challenging and expensive up front to do, but we bring in other companies, our competitors. Our commitment is our competitors. If they're doing better tree care, it raises everyone's the quality of the market up. Rising tides rise all ships. So we'll invite our competitors. We'll invite in, property managers, HOA property managers, and city officials, and city foresters, anybody that we feel that would be a benefit, and we bring in speakers and researchers from around the country to do that at our symposiums. And now we don't do a lot of these. We do them maybe about every 2 or 3 years, or whenever a topic of significant importance. The last ones we've done here in Minneapolis were around emerald ash borer. But some things that you can do today easily with that is, you can do little lunch and learn type things. This photo here is of me at I believe this was a Kiwanis meeting, but Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, Lions Clubs, garden groups, there's a lot of community organizations that they meet every month. They have a lunch or they have a breakfast, and they need someone to come and speak for 25 minutes. So they're happy to have someone come and speak. And we don't focus on our company. We focus on some tree healthcare issues. If you can see here, actually in the screen here, it says this was around emerald ash borer awareness. But these are influential people in the market. They're business owners. This is a great resource, and I don't think I've ever walked away from one of these without 4 or 5 leads, usually not around the topic I'm speaking of, but about, hey, I got an oak tree that looks like this or whatever. But great resource, doesn't cost you any money. Hey, you get a free breakfast, lunch. A lot of times they'll give you a pen or something. It's a great opportunity, and I encourage you to do that. The other thing that we focus on is making sure our communication pieces fit the market and fit the customer. So you can see here are 3 examples. This is focused primarily for cities. It has fact sheets around what would be important to the city about taking action. Here with emerald ash borer, the one in the middle is a basic fact sheet that we give out to homeowners about the pest. And the one on the right was really designed for city councils and block party groups and stuff where they're looking at sustainability groups. This is a lot of facts on the value of trees and what was here in Minneapolis, what was at risk by losing all of our ash trees. So it's really to get the facts across. And out of our education, this was something that just got published, and this, is basically the end of like having symposiums, education. This was as an ash and elm program that this insert is in the City of Minnetonka's newsletter. So this just came out. It's a document inside of it about how to deal with ash, emerald ash borer, and elms. And we developed a city program that's a cost-saving program for residents to treat trees. But you can see here, we work with them in conjunction to develop the material, and it's got our logo and contact information in it. And this is a win-win-win. It's a win for the city because they're going to be able to keep more of their canopy in their city. Rainbow wins because it's going to increase our business, and the homeowner wins because they're getting a good information, and they're getting probably the best price in town for doing it. So partnerships like that are great, but they don't come out of not building trust with your customer, as well as, this is the foundation coming from education and not being focused on just making a buck. Timing of communications. This is really probably the biggest area that I see companies miss on. And, typically, when I first started working with our service side, this calendar here was pretty much our marketing activity area. So in the spring, we're coming off a long winter, and everyone's chomping at the bit to get going, to generate revenue, to get out working. So there's this big push, and we have time on our hands. So there's always a big push. That's when our spring letters go out. But everyone's wanting to contacting customers here. Then you get busy, and you kind of slide into May, June, July, and that you're focused more on just taking care of customers, and you're not really out talking or trying to generate as much new business. And then you kind of hit the mid-August, there's a lot of vacations, people are getting ready for back to school, and then it kind of goes, oh my goodness, we need backlog work for winter pruning, so guess what, let's get out a pruning message, and so there goes the cycle. Well, that fits for the business. That fits for Rainbow, that fits for the tree care company or landscape company out there. The reality of it is what fits for the customer is what you need to be focusing on. And so depending on the problems in your market, again, and you got to look at the problems that the customer is aware of too. So, trees look great in the spring. Even trees that are in bad shape look pretty good in the spring, so no one really thinks about it. Times that trees look really bad is typically after a hot summer, late July, August. Even trees that are in marginal, pretty decent health start looking ragged, and the problems show up. So, those are the best times to reach out to your customers. It may not be the time that you can actually do the work, but it will get you on the property. And when I look at marketing, really the context for marketing is to get you on the property. We do apple scab, great time to get on the property in July is around apple scab, because that's when the damage really starts showing up. You can't do anything about it then, but you can also then look at for other problems. You can sign them up for a spray in the spring, but they may need pruning work. They may have an oak tree that has anthracnose or something that you can deal with. But, in addition, is your message focusing on the problems instead of you? So you can see here these examples. They're targeting, like here, gunky leaves, for foliar diseases. Here's one for, obviously this leaf here, I think that's Japanese beetle, but you get leaf problems midsummer from caterpillars and different things chewing them up. Dead branches. Instead of talking about, do you have dieback, it's like, do you have dead branches? Those are things that customers can see, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And a way that you can time your message is simply, one is having some of these pre-prepared, and then when you see them out in the field, you can be sending out those communications. But other ways that we do it is, the same way we manage our treatments, by growing degree days, phenology and stuff, we can also time our marketing piece. So what we have developed internally is what we call our pest calendar. As you can see in this calendar, it's talking about the treatment timing. It's got the symptoms, times that you would be looking for the problem. Well, we'll look at this, and we'll look at the symptom period, and that's when the marketing communication should be tying into. The customer is going to react to the problems that the tree's having. Preventative treatments are usually a tough sell for new customers or someone new to that service. Another thing I would recommend you do is when you're on these properties, you've got on the property is create a property map. And the key thing here that we do is it's a little tough to see here in these little circles, but these are the trees. So we do a tree inventory for every property. And inside that tree inventory, we record the DBH inches, and there's a health rating. But what's really powerful for marketing here is we have a database now of all the trees that our customers have. So when EAB hit the Twin Cities, within a half hour, I had a database pulled out of like 30,000 customers that had ash trees. So I don't need to go out and blast random message out. I can do a targeted message to all those customers, and we do that a lot through emails, and we get a great response in doing that. So here's an example of one of our targeted emails. They come on the behalf of the arborists. So we have 16 consulting arborists. Each one of these would come out with them. Julie will talk more about in the online marketing one how to do on your behalf emails, but they're not that complicated if you have an email service. And we definitely get a much more higher open rate. You can see down here on our personalized emails, we get about an 80% open rate versus if we just send out a mass general topic email, we get about 20%. The key to being effective with these is, one, making sure that you're respecting the customer and you're not just randomly sending these, that you focus on problems of their trees. And when we ask for their email, we let people know what we're going to use it for. That, hey, look, we know what trees you have on your property, and when we see problems, would you like us to send you an email relating to that to see if that's something you would like us to take care of? Usually at that point, they shift the email they gave us. They gave us their Yahoo account email before. When we tell them what we're going to do with it, all of a sudden they're like, well, here, use my business email. And they give you a different email because now that's of value to them. And I think that's significant to why we get such an open rate, because they know this is specifically something of value to them. So neuromarketing impacts, how can we impact these messages and make sure that people, all the efforts we do to send out to people, that they actually read the message and give us a call. So really what neuromarketing is, it's a fancy word to basically say that marketing is taking traditional marketing questions, so things that you would have done for surveys and focus groups and stuff that marketing would have done in the past. Now they're doing it and they're hooking your brain up. So they're looking at what's the brain activity. And, MRI, with the science and the technology that's come along and the more affordability of it, MRI is probably the leading one that they're doing. And so they basically are watching your brain and asking questions and trying to figure out, is your response accurate and what's really going on to trigger it. It's pretty kind of, in certain situations, kind of scary because they basically it could be used for manipulation. And there was a time, I know I read an article where they were actually there was legislation trying to prevent that for political campaigns, specifically for that, because they could, the persuasion that is very powerful. So a good example of neuromarketing is the Pepsi challenge. So I don't know, what the age of everyone is out there, but if you remember back in the late 70s and 80s, the Pepsi challenge, I know I do. And, in the grocery stores, basically there'd be a booth and you'd go up and do a taste test and then be, aha, you love Pepsi. So it was interesting about that was, out of the Pepsi challenge, Pepsi basically figured out that half of the market preferred Pepsi over Coke. At the time, and I don't know what it is today, but I know when they redid this test, I'll talk about here where they did neuromarketing, 75% of the market share roughly was driven by Coke. So Pepsi thought they were really onto something. They're like, wow, 55% of people like Coke. Man, we're going to capture, 25% more market share because people, now are going to know that Pepsi's better. Well, what was interesting out of that, they never captured really more than 50 or less than 50% of the market share. Pepsi still, or Coke still maintained that 75% or around their market share. So why is that? If in a blind taste test, half the people like Pepsi, why wouldn't half the people be buying Pepsi? So Baylor University looked at that back in 2003, and basically what they did is they repeated the Pepsi challenge, and at this time they mapped the brain and looked at what type of results they would get. Well, ironically enough, they got similar results to what Pepsi had reported in their blind taste test. So, why is that? Well, when they looked at the brain activity during the taste test, what showed up for Pepsi was when people drank Pepsi, the part of the brain that is recognition and reward and also for taste lit up. So, yeah, it showed that people like Pepsi more than Coke. So, again, why didn't more people buy Pepsi? Well, when they did that again, and this time what they did prior to you taking a drink of the product, they told them what it was. This time they knew it was Coke or Pepsi. Guess what? 75% of the people chose Coke, 25% chose Pepsi. And that reflected basically the market share in the place. What was really interesting, though, the part of the brain that lit up. So the part of the brain that's responsible for memory and emotion lit up like crazy when they knew it was Coke. So, it's kind of like, okay, so, if you really like it better, well, why is this other part of your brain working, being triggered when you talk about Coke? Well, think about all the years of the Coke branding. I mean, the Santa Claus that we see today was created by Coke. I mean, I know myself, when I was growing up in my grandfather's workshop, we would take Coke breaks. We had the little 8-ounce bottles of Coke. So for me, that CocaCola it's not about the drink, it's about the family events that was tied to in the memories. And that is why, Coke's brand stays strong. It's not necessarily based upon the product, it's based upon all the marketing and emotions that are tied to the brand. So it really challenges the concept of, the right brain, the left brain, kind of concept where we thought, one side of the brain's creative, the other one's analytical. If you talk to analytical people, you should, have an analytical marketing and communications. If they're more art created, you should have a more creative kind of thing, and that's how you would market. Well, the reality of it is they're finding the brain is actually more complex and more simple than that when it comes to marketing. And where it's more complex is there's a lot of things going on. This is a very simplified view of basically the brain. There's the fight or flight, the old part of the brain. Sometimes if you look at marketing materials, they'll refer to it as the reptile brain. That's the area in yellow. And that's, reptiles have that. That's like all living animals have the reptile brain. Well, the reason we're humans is because our brain is developed significantly more. And so there's the middle brain, which is primarily emotions. That's where you get the gut feeling from. Hey, I like this person, I don't like this person. And then the new brain is where the rational thought is. That's like your computer hard drive. That's what crunches all the numbers and facts. Well, with neuromarketing, or what they're finding with how our brain operates is, we think a lot of our thinking is done in the new brain, our feelings middle brain, but actual decisions made in the reptile brain. So bad news, we're all making decisions like reptiles. That's what is decided has been driven out of this. So how do it's kind of, we're making, billion-dollar decisions, if you're running a big corporation, or if you're the President of the United States, and guess what? The reptile brain is what's ultimately deciding if he's going to push the red button and launch nuclear weapons or not. So it's a little scary from that perception of how simplified we really are when it comes to decision making. So out of like the example with the Pepsi challenge, emotion is really the strongest factor in making decisions. So the reptile brain is making the decision, but it's influenced by emotion. And you get the buyer's remorse or justification. So you go out and you buy something expensive. It was your reptile brain made the decision because you emotionally were very excited about it. And guess what? The next day, what do? You try to rationalize it. Well, I get better gas mileage with this car, or yeah, it's not as good gas mileage. I bought this Ford F1 pickup, but we do go on camping twice a year, and we got to pull our trailer. You've got some rationale a while there, but really what you're not admitting, you're trying to justify was that emotional decision. So there are key things that can drive those decisions. People focus on me. If you focus on the customer, that is going to help make that decision, because people are, at the end of the day, we're all thinking about me. I'm doing this webinar thinking, wow, what's in it for me? How do I help you? And you're thinking, what's in this for me? You're listening for what do I get out of it? So when you're with a customer, the more you focus on them, the marketing pieces, the more to focus on them, the better results you're going to have. So less talk. You hear this all the time in sales things. Don't talk about yourself. Ask questions. Well, that's why, because the brain is wired that way. Tangible. Use stories, real examples. Make it, something that someone can really get, not theoretic. The brain deals a lot better with tangible examples, especially if you can refer to, hey, such and such property down the street, I did X, Y, Z. It's a great example of making it tangible for them. Visual. You've heard the thing, picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, guess what? It's true. Your optical nerve is 40 times faster than auditory. So they're going to see a photo and they're going to understand it way faster than you can explain it. So try to keep things visual as possible. And, again, emotion drives decision making. So if there's no emotion in it, you're probably not going to have as much power. That's why, they say a lot of times good salespeople are very passionate. Well, that's creating emotion. So if you're passionate about what you're doing, that will drive through and get other people emotions going, and you'll get better results. So again, focus on them, don't focus on you. It's their problem, ask questions, try to really nail that down. Again, in your marketing people, talk about them, don't talk about you. Visual, a good example of that visual, what I was telling you, here, the statement reads, TrimTech reduces vegetation growth by 50% over one growing season. Okay, right now, you're trying to visualize what does that really mean. I could have just showed you a photo. That photo is a lot easier for you to comprehend than me giving you a statement. So in your marketing pieces, in your sales materials, do you have photos that explain what you're trying to do? Is it highly visual? Again, you could show a bar graph. This is way better than given copy, but again, this takes some effort to process. This is a research graph from one of our Zytec trials where we developed the higher rates for Zytec for emerald ash borer and other boring insects. Or I can just show you a photo. Here is the 1x treatment that is there. Here's the untreated. Here's the higher dose. The photo is a lot easier to explain and to show than a graph. So again, photos, anything, make it as visual as possible. Is it tangible? And sometimes this is a tougher one for me I struggle with more, and it's a little tougher for me to do because it's, we're not necessarily always with the customer where we can have a conversation with them. So through, the web and print media, how do we make it tangible? Well, tell stories, show examples. Here, instead of showing an illustration or something, show a photo. It makes it more tangible for them. Probably the best example ever, and I wish I could have our own website, Rainbow's website, to show this, but the Mayhem, do you remember back all the Allstate promotions? And a lot of the companies, insurance companies have copied them. I know State Farm now does this as well. But the Mayhem commercials where they basically took something that has not happened to you yet from like an insurance claim. They had a whole series of them, and they made it real. And the power of that is they made something that was theoretical, that this may happen to you someday, real. And I know I had a near-miss accident. For sake of time, I won't go into all the details, but it was basically I thought I was going to get rear-ended. I passed a guy on the interstate. He was texting. He had his boat. He had his truck. He was heading up north to go. I think it was time probably going deer hunting because I know I saw a bow case in the back, and he was probably doing fishing at the same time. And I don't know if he was checking with his buddies. Anyway, he was texting. I had passed him. I had pulled into the passing lane or into the off-ramp lane to get onto another highway, and traffic was dead stop. And he came across into my lane and was going 70 miles an hour, and I was like looking for how I can get out of his way. At the last minute, he swerved, went up on the curb, almost flipped over his boat. And the thing why this is such a good thing is I thought about the Mayhem guy. So that triggered, what a better brand recognition than that, where you almost had an accident and you think of Allstate. And so that shows you the power of making it tangible for people. Other ways to do, we do a lot of before and after photos in our marketing that you get from us, and it's not by accident. It makes it a lot easier to explain. So again, bring in the before and after here. This is, for example, this linden here, this is Japanese beetle treated, untreated. If you've got the ability, when you're out with clients to take photos and try to do some your own before and afters, definitely have them on your iPad, have them on your phone, have them printed out, whatever it is. It's a lot easier to show a customer that than try to explain what type of results to expect. One interesting thing to showing before and after photos, here's an example of, I believe these are pin oaks, chlorotic versus not. The one on the left was treated. The one on the right was before treatment. So you can see a year after treatment. It might be a year or 2 years after treatment, the green up. Well, what's interesting enough is we read right to left. So without me explaining this to you, you would probably look at this and go, oh, this is what the tree used to look like, and now it's getting chlorotic, it's getting yellow. If I show it to you this way, you read, oh, this is what it was, and this is what it is now. And the key thing is we read right to left. So you always want to have, or sorry, right to left. Wait, sorry, left to right. Um, don't listen to me. Look at the photos. But anyway, left to right, and so the ending of what we see is what we remember. So again, with photos, but also with any printed material, you want to end with what you want them to remember. So you don't want to end with something that's like, oh wow, our prices are expensive. That's what they're going to take away. So in your communication pieces, make sure the ending of what you leave them is what you want them to remember. And then emotion, we know this is probably the X factor. This is the key thing that drives decision making. And so, anything you can do to instill emotion is going to be beneficial for you. And I'm not recommending you to be a fear monger and going out and scaring the hell out of all your customers with what could happen, but emotion is fact of life. Is why do you think you put on deodorant this morning? Deodorant has absolutely no health benefit. It's a fear of smelling bad. So definitely, fear and emotion are key factors. In fact, I read something in a marketing journal that I think they said 80% of all marketing is fear-based. Why do you think Trump is doing so well right now? And if you support him or not, it doesn't. I'm not making a political decision, but he definitely has people out there driving emotions. So, what causes emotion? Emotion is a human factor. So yeah, this creates emotion in this photo, but guess what? You put a person in it, it goes to a whole nother level with emotion. So the point of it is not necessarily driving fear, but try to put people into your communications, on your website, in your direct mails. People relate with people. Emotion is a human factor, and that's what sets emotion. So if it's a happy photo, you are happy. If it's a sad photo, it generates photos of sadness. So definitely have people in it. A good example of that is Perel. So here, I know I'm using this example because I know they do a lot of neuromarketing and they spend a lot of money on it. So when you look down the different things that they're doing here, they're leveraging all of the key factors that we know drive response. Talk about emotion. They're showing a face. You got a happy kid here. They're telling you to be happy. Don't worry, be happy, and guess what? They're putting a happy person there. They're making it tangible. It's easy. It's very visual. $1 off. I can see a savings here. I don't even have to read it, but everything's, your budget's happy. Don't be happy. Your school's happy. Why do you think they used an apple? They could use a school bus to represent a school. Well, guess what? This is all about being healthy. An apple, that immediately sets the icon about, hey, this is healthy. They're making it tangible down here. They have a live Twitter feed of examples of using this. So now it's more tangible. They're using a lot of neuromarketing techniques to drive response here. And then really, what do customers buy? They're buying results. If you're out talking about chronic treatments and chlorosis, they're probably not really know what you need. But if you're talking about yellow trees and green trees, they'll get the message. Is the tree, you got a sticky mess, instead of talking about aphids, you talk about the what they can understand, what they get, not our arborist conversation or talk or professional conversation. Focus on results. That's what they're looking for. Some examples of how we do that with our direct mail cards. Dead, obviously that word creates emotion. With visual, tangible, we're trying to show, treated versus untreated and examples. So they're like, oh yeah, I get that. I've seen that. It's about me. It's your green tree yellow. Instead of saying, do you have chlorosis? Contrast again, the before and afters. So this is some ways that you could work it in. What would make this better would be having some people in it. There's no people on these cards. Having a consistent look, I think, is very important, and I see that a lot with companies where they're not carrying their look through from their website to their printed pieces, through their social media. Here's our Facebook page. This was back around Christmas time. We're doing our holiday lights. but we even added in our tabs that are off our website here. So if someone went from Facebook and looked for our website and landed here, immediately they would know they're at the right place. So that's a simple thing to do, but it's a lot of people just don't think of that, or it doesn't get carried through. But make sure that you're consistent. Your look is consistent. Here's some consistent look. This was a campaign on EAB. Really orange was our theme, and so it carried through all the way through. So that the one on the left is a direct mail card, right? It's a door hanger. Again, here was our tag for our protection plan, our guarantee. Made it tangible instead of just talking about it. We put a little tag there. It's clipped off when it was treated, so it's a real, trying to make it a tangible thing versus just a piece of paper. Yard sign, again, we carried through the Stop EAB symbol, the orange and green combo. Here's a tree tag, treated trees, again, carrying it all the way through. It's a little tough to see here with the bug icon, but just trying. The idea is to reinforce that if you're going to have a look, make sure it's consistent, and that's important for building brand. Create reminders. The biggest thing is how do you remember all the things you're doing? So having reminders with key talking points. Again, these fact sheets are great reminders, not only for your clients to hand out, but also for yourself. To have those topics, the facts and everything, they're quickly on hand to do that is always helpful. One of the other things, now we provide these, but you can also create them for yourself. These are our diagnostic guides. You could hand these out to homeowners. These are more designed for people to carry in the field. But again, this helps you with reminders. You can use it to show customers examples of different pests and stuff, but it's you're never going to remember all this stuff that you learn. It's good to carry those reminders with you. And then I'm basically at the end, but I want to give a little plug for Julie's webinar that she'll have coming up. It's a very good, more hands-on, powerful conversation. She'll go over a lot of this online marketing efforts that we do with social media, keywords, the difference between organic searches and paid searches, online ads. She'll do the Google, Bing, Yahoo. How do you do them? Facebook is something that we've been doing a lot of. That's been a surprisingly growing area for us. Referral sites. I'm not a big fan of these. I think they do work. They do have their place. They're a little like extortion. They're going to put reviews on there about you if you like them or not, and then they try to get you to pay money to improve them. But they do have some value, and we'll talk about how we work with them. But they are a very low percentage of our results. And then the biggest thing and the real cool part about web marketing is you can track everything. So she'll go over how to track and what to do with tracking. So highly recommend you to sign up for her webinar. We'll have it on July 19th, 11 a.m. We'll definitely be sending out reminders on this, but it's I think a very powerful, it'll be a very powerful webinar. And with that, I'm going to leave it with questions. I know we're getting probably right at the time, but I can hang on for a few minutes here. So what do we have? So one of the questions is, are your marketing flyers and informational brochures available for purchase? Yes, we do have them available for purchase, and I'll make out the offer in general to everyone. I'm myself, I have Peter Vu and Julie Gann are both marketing managers that I have, brand managers that are on our team. We're here to help you. John Hillis is our web designer and webmaster. Anything we can do to help you, definitely call us. Like I said, we can sell you the brochures, but also we can help you with questions you have, or in some cases we can send you some of the artwork we have and you can use it yourself. Your success is our success. With that, doesn't look like there's any more questions. I appreciate your time, and you got my email and phone number on the screen. If you want to reach out to me, I'm more than welcome to help you. Thanks and have a great day.